G'day, Frothers. You know those around us who operate at high energy levels? From friends, family, through to the famous. Those who emanate enthusiasm. They inspire you to be better. Their words give you a rush. This rush fires off dopamine right in the middle of your brain's reward centre. My theory is that at times, just before we need to hit our straps, to tap into peak performance in our flow state, we find these people and harness their energy. I call this energy froth. I call these people frothers. This is a journey to find the frothers, to understand how they inspire themselves and others to be their best. And I'll pass it on to you on this podcast, dare I say Frothcast, so you can fly into your next challenge beaming, pumped and full of energy. This is a coffee shop with a Red Bull chaser. This is Finding the Frothers.
Oh yes, Mitch Garling is one of Australia's brightest upcoming comedians, and the first time I got to see him perform was after the wake of my nan's funeral. Not something you would normally associate with funerals, but we unpack in this episode how comedy can be a powerful tool for froth in the face of death. Hearing this back actually made me feel refreshed and even inspired to discuss and explore post-death healing and the tools and mindsets we can employ to not only get us through, but embrace the tough times in the way that Mitch has. This episode swings from the love of football through to musical jams and our even newfound love for the place that both of us grew up, the Central Coast of New South Wales. There's actually a lot of froth to be had on the sunny coast, and I'm proud to be associated with some of the hell men and women who originated from there, and there's more to come on future podcasts. To Mitch's career, he's performed at most of the big fringe festivals and is a regular at the infamous Comedy Store, while also appearing in some rad short flicks in the process. Please be patient with the audio on this one as I was trialling a new recorder, which is no longer being trialled. But for the most part, the most important thing is that Mitch's delightful answers are clear as, and the froth is genuine, and we had such a good time. This is live from my mum's house, aptly at Wamberal on the Central Coast. So without further ado, check out Mitch Garling. G'day Mitch, mate. Welcome to Finding the Frothers. Stoked to have you on, mate. Fellow Central Coast lad.
That's me. Hey, man. Thanks very much for having me. This is cool. Cool to have a chat. Looking forward to it. Hit me.
Yeah, here you are. Yeah, the listeners have had a little bit of an intro to you. So, first question.
All nice things.
All nice things, of course.
Beautiful.
That's the beauty of me doing that while you're not here, because I can say whatever the fuck I want.
Well, I'm just gonna trust that it was a beautiful intro, and hope that you've done me well.
Awesome, mate. So you're familiar with the frother concept.
I am.
And being a frother yourself, specifically on stage, what is the activity or routine that you do in a day-to-day basis that has you accessing that peak level of froth?
I guess, I mean, obviously being a comedian, a lot of time is spent on stage or working on that routine. So I guess the peak, the activity or something that gets me to my peak performance or ability to do what I want to do. It's just I'm just constantly kind of writing in my head or figuring out how things are funny. Like an example, like my wife is pregnant at the moment. When she told me, I was like obviously over the moon, super happy. But then not long after, a couple of hours later, I said to her, I was like, this is going to be great. I'm going to get so much material. And she was like, can you just enjoy something for once instead of just trying to figure out how something is funny? Which obviously, she's not the biggest fan, but I think that's probably the thing that gets me sort of at peak performance is just constantly trying to figure out where things are funny, that sort of thing, if that makes sense.
Mate, that must just brighten up your day constantly. Is there any tools that you use to record? Like I write all my notes in Evernote on my app. Do you have pen and paper, or have you just got the ultimate brain?
Oh, ultimate brain? No, not at all. A bit of everything, man. Like if I'm at work, I'll try and just jot something down, like in notes on my phone or something like that. Or if I'm at home, I've got a little notepad on the train. Same again, phone, notepad, whatever. But it's really just, I'll just chuck down a couple of words and it sort of will prompt me to remember that stuff later, if that makes sense. Like, if anyone looked in the notes on my phone, it would just make zero sense, like, at all. It's like, just like boost juice and like just dumb stuff in there. But, I guess splitting it up between phone and trying to keep it old school with the notes. With the notepad.
Awesome, mate. There's something that, being growing up on the Central Coast, that I found that I took for granted as a youngster, and now I find it super inspirational, which is getting the train.
Oh, man.
To us, called the train of death, especially if you're coming from Newcastle into the city. But that actual trip is one of the most scenic, beautiful train rides you can have.
Man, yeah, 100%. When I first left high school, I got a job in the city, was commuting from Central Coast, just a job to, get me by. I was going to do a gap year. I was going to go back to uni and all that sort of thing. Just had a job, and that train, yeah, it was the death of me. But now, whenever I catch the train, if I come up to the coast to see my mum, or even if I get the train into the city because I'm living in Hornsby, it's still a bit of a train ride. You can chuck podcasts on, you can write, you can just enjoy yourself. But yeah, man, that Hawkesbury River to Woy Woy, all through there, that beautiful spot of the world, no reception on your phone, so you've just got to be one with your thoughts or your notepad if you've got it. But man, it's a beautiful spot. Yeah, definitely took it for granted.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty amazed. I almost think about, do I just go get the train of death so I can get some good creative thinking done?
Yeah, wouldn't that be good to just have a bit of me time? It's like, got my Opal card. Yeah. I got my phone, I got my pen, I got my pad, got my headphones. Let's go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's have a bit of fun. Yeah. Oh man. I'm sure after about 3 trips you'd probably be friggin' insane. But
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, man, I don't know. Every now and then, totally fine. But credit to train guards, man. I don't know. Train guards and train drivers, I couldn't do it. I'd lose my mind. I think just up and down, up and down, up and down. But hey, I mean, that's every job, I suppose, in a way. At least you get that beautiful scenery, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, speaking of your mum,
yes,
Anchor Frothers, which are the people that you have direct access to every day.
Yep.
Who would you say someone really close to you in your life is who really provides you with the energy?
I guess, a couple of people. Mum is definitely one, and probably my wife is my biggest one. She is my wife, Lou. She is a dance teacher. So she owns her own dance school in Hornsby, and she is studying to be a teacher as well. But she's non-stop, she's on the go, 24/7 kind of thing. Always kind of working on how to make the dance school more popular, the dance school better. Even just like I was saying before about how I make sure that I can get to peak performance for comedy. She's very the same. She's constantly. She'll sit down and spend hours just choreographing and things like that, and just really trying to make the most of what she's doing. So I guess that'd be someone that I guess I took an inspiration from, if you will.
Awesome, mate. That's so important. The person you see the most of most of the time.
Yeah.
And you both work in the arts, which I'm sure helps as well.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Is there any particular? I'm going to ask you about music first. Is there any music that you use to fire you up before you go out on stage, or is it something that inspires you to write?
Yeah, there's a couple of I've got a playlist on my Spotify that's called
Give It a Plug.
Give It a Plug. What's it even called? I don't even know. I'll look it up later. But
I'll put it in the notes.
I'll put it in the notes. Thanks, guys. It's called The Greatest Songs Ever. The Greatest Songs Ever, and it's just a bunch of different songs that really sort of either psych me up, give me good memories, that sort of thing. So I'll chuck that on. Usually chuck it on in the car if I'm driving to a gig, driving home from a gig. But there's a couple of real songs that sort of get me going. There's Madder by Groove Armada.
Oh, yeah.
It reminds me heaps of this movie I saw when I was younger called Getting Square. It's like an Aussie movie. Mm-hmm. But it used that song in a montage scene. Mm-hmm. And it was just... Oh man, it stuck with me ever since then, and I've always just had it in the back of my, not in the back of my head, that's weird, but I've always just had it as my psych up song, which has always been good. But and then another one is Sweetness by Jimmy Eat World, if you know that song. What I used to do is when I was working the job in the city that I didn't sort of love, every afternoon as I walked out 4:30, 5 o'clock, whatever. I'd put the headphones in, and as I walked to the station, every day I walked out of that place, I'd play that song. So it had like a sweet connotation. If I heard that song, that meant I was done for the day. So like that was a cool little, I guess, trying to make your own little victories in life. And that was my victory, trying to get to the end of the day so I could hear some Jimmy Eat World.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, sticking more like, I guess, closer to your profession, is there a comedy routine which you steal froth from?
Oh man, there's a lot. There's a lot of stuff. I think probably there's a couple of super famous ones that you're just like, wow, that's next level. Like the Jim Jeffries gun control bit is a huge one. And then in like real recent times, there's a bit by American comedian John Mulaney. It's called A Horse in a Hospital, and basically it's all an analogy for Trump being president. So Trump is the horse and the hospital is the White House. But it goes for like 10 minutes of just him being like, you know, there's never been a horse in the hospital before, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just, if anyone hasn't heard it, get out there and listen to it. It's real good. But yeah, I think those sorts of, like the Jeffries bit and Mulaney's bit, I look at that and I'm like, oh man, like that's the potential. Like that's the right up there potential. Like if you keep working, yeah, I'm not saying I'll be as good as that, but if you keep working, you might write a bit or find a bit that, you know, has the same sort of feelings for you, if that makes sense.
It skyrockets.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. So within your space, we talk about boundary frothers. So these are people that you'd like to access and they're within reach. Is there anyone just outside your network, that you'd really love to connect with?
Oh man, I think like there's a few people I think that are probably on my radar in terms of really, I guess, really nailing what they're doing. The big one who's out of, like, he's a mate, but who's out of the inner circle of comedy would be a guy called Nathan McCallum. I don't know if you know Nath. He's a Central Coast boy as well, but he's a personal trainer, but he's also got just a ton of followers on Instagram, does a lot of sort of motivational stuff and things like that. And he seems to just have his head switched on and knows what he's doing, knows what his audience is, knows what he's trying to get out there. And I think he's probably, out of the comedy circle, he's one that you look at and go, yeah, sick. Like he's killing it. I'd love to be, half as successful as him. Yeah.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. The first time I ever came to watch you do a live show was here on the Central Coast with my bro. It was an interesting scenario actually because my nan had just passed away. So it was actually on the day of her funeral. Well, the show was on the night, but it was on the day. And it gave me a good opportunity to pause and to think about when someone passes away. I think we always go to the negative and we cry and stuff, which we do as humans. And then we might go and to the pub and we'll have a wake and get absolutely hammered or don't drink at all. But we don't really think about what the person who passed away would have wanted you to do in the wake.
Correct.
So, for example, like, does my nan who didn't drink a drop of in her life, who's actually quite averse to drinking, want me to go and get hammered? Yeah. So my nan did drink. She loved a beer. So we did have a few beers with my uncles. And then me and my bro, Tim, who you went to school with, we went to see your show in Gosford. And I was thinking about it and I was like, probably the normal thing, in inverted commas, would be to not go and enjoy yourself and, mourn the passing. But then I thought, what would my nan really froth on? And it would have been going and seeing some comedy. And
definitely.
Just enjoying ourselves and getting on with life and stuff.
Having a laugh. That's it, man. It's 100%. Like, I remember that show pretty vividly because that show was like not long after my dad actually got diagnosed with cancer. And like we lost my dad about a year ago now, and that's man, like spot on. That is 100%. Like he would have, he would want us to miss him and mourn. Like he's that makes sense, but he would want us to live our normal lives, and I think that's what I tried to do, especially with my Sydney Comedy Fest show this year. Is that I did try and touch on my relationship with Dad and then also Dad's passing, like trying to use that content because it's, I don't know, as a comedian, people say you can't joke about certain things or you shouldn't joke about certain things, and I completely agree in some aspects. But when it's, you know, say my dad's passing or something like that, that's my pain. Like, that's my family's pain. Mm-hmm. So we should be able to deal with it however I want. And, you know, my mum can be upset. My mum can do whatever she wants. Whereas if I want to talk about it on stage, I'm going to talk about it on stage. Mm-hmm. So, like, if I sit down and try and write material and reminisce and figure out all the, you know, try and find the brighter things in a pretty dark time, like, if that's how I deal with it or sort of rationalise things, then I think that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. And I think that's pretty similar to your thing, man, like, where you're, like, it's not a traditional thing to, of course, horrible day, going to your nan's funeral, but I don't think anyone would have ever expected you guys to be going to a comedy show after. Yeah. And it's breaking that norm. Like, you know, I can't actually remember 100% what we did. I genuinely think the day my dad passed away, like, my mum, my wife and I went out for Chinese that night. And it's like, that's so weird. Like, when you actually think about it, like, you know, you've obviously just lost one of the most important people in your life, and then you're like, well, why don't we pop down the Chinese restaurant, like, and just move on? But it's a strange thought. Someone like my dad, like your nan, who has shaped you for so long, you just have to do what they think. What you think they would want you to do.
Exactly.
And I know that, your nan would want you guys to be having fun, having a laugh, whatever. My dad would want me to be up on stage, like, doing what I want to do. So, yeah, I think that's that's a fuck, man, interesting question.
Yeah,
interesting question.
Yeah, it's a perspective thing. And,
yeah, man.
Yeah, it's like, you know, we can't affect a lot of the things that happen to us, but we can definitely affect how we react to them. So,
and how you move forward.
Exactly.
Like, you know, of course, when things happen, you do want to, especially if it's sudden, like, you kind of have this, I guess, fuck the world mentality. Mm-hmm. And you're like, man, how, like, you just want to crawl up and not die, but, like, you just want to crawl up and just have a bit of a, like Tim Minchin calls it, a doona day, where you're just laying in bed and you're just like, nah, not getting out, don't care.
Yeah.
But nah, you got to move on. Like, that's what they would want you to do, and just do what you love. That's what it comes down to, man. Just do what you love.
Yeah, mate. So, not to stick on the morbid topic, but people who have passed can still have massive influence on you. Like you say, you can reminisce about dad, and you can write amazing content.
Exactly.
I was lucky enough to be at your Sydney show, so I actually got to hear the content as well, and it was really nice.
Thanks,
nice isn't a good enough word. It was like really it was a deeper connection that you wouldn't normally get with a comedian.
Yeah.
But it also had lots of funny undertones.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you.
Which is really nice.
Yeah.
And awesome. But yeah, so is there anyone in your life that has passed on? It can be someone close to you, it can be like celebrity that you still gain energy from, froth.
Oh, man. I mean, yeah, of course, Dad. Dad is a big one. I think the fact that I am a comedian comes from him. Like, he was very dry. Like, I grew up sort of... He was always hitting me with not a one-liner, but hitting me with some sort of dry, sarcastic response or something. And it's like, that's funny. And, like, he showed me heaps of, like, Monty Python and all that sort of thing. So I kind of grew up around comedy because of him. I guess in terms of a celebrity passing that has really sort of sat with me, and I think a lot of Australians probably feel this as well, is Heath Ledger. Mm-hmm. Like, I think he was really, like, he was the it guy for Aussie actors, and was really kind of finally breaking out of that mould of, like, just this, I don't know, pretty boy kind of thing, and was really starting to get into, like, he'd, you know, done Brokeback Mountain a couple of years ago, and, like, he'd just done obviously Dark Knight, and was really kind of breaking out of that. And I think, you know, tragic what happened, of course, but I think the lesson I learned from that is to just go hard, like, just do what you want, use your skills to the best of your potential, because unfortunately you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Like, he was a young dude, like, he's younger than, I think when he passed, he's younger than what both of us are now.
Yeah.
So we just have to use what we've got. I think. And that's
right.
someone, I look at Heath Ledger and I'm like, oh man, that is so much potential that unfortunately is no longer with us. So the people that are with us, man, let's smash it. Like, let's go hard.
Yeah, and he did so much in that short period of time.
Oh, didn't he?
Like, that's awesome. So it's like you can spend the rest of your life catching up to Heath Ledger, really.
Oh, man, yeah, and both of us will, man. Both of us, honestly. Like I say, you know, Heath Ledger was younger than both of us when he passed, and that you have that quick little thought where you're like, what have you done with your life? Like, but yeah, none of us will either. Neither of us will equal him, but you just got to do what you can.
Yeah, maybe in our specific fields. Not
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I don't think either of us will ever play the Joker. I don't think that'll ever happen. But yeah, in our own fields, yeah, we'll definitely try.
Yeah, exactly. Mate, so speaking of people like these epic sort of, I guess, out of beyond the boundary and beyond the inner circle and to that kind of super top next level, is there anyone that you would love to connect with? No boundaries here. And take me to the first meeting you would have with them.
That's a pretty easy one for me, I think, growing up watching football. Mm-hmm. Growing up watching football, loving football, playing football, every kind of aspect of it. The number one has always been, football-wise for me, has always been David Beckham.
Yeah.
Like, I think...
Found it.
Yeah.
Man United.
Yeah, man. Hell yeah. It's like, let's not talk about the Man United tattoo on my back. I'm very upset with that 18-year-old decision. So
yeah, well, at least you don't have the undercut at the moment.
Yeah, I know, right? But it's I think he would be the hero, man. Like, he's been number one. Like, I mean, granted, he's not playing anymore, so there's people that are number one in terms of the actual game, but in terms of recognisability and things like that, and what he does, like charities, awareness, you know, spreading the love of the game, I think he's number one. And to take you to a first meeting, man, it'd be awkward. It'd be so awkward. It'd be me. It'd be like going to like an art gallery, you know, like I just stand there and just appreciate the art of him and not really realise that he's a real person. And I need to stand there and actually say words. But yeah, he'd be number one for me, I think.
Yeah. So what would happen? This is pretty fun hypothetical.
Yep.
We're doing a show. Let's say it's in Manchester.
Yep.
And he turns up and sits front and centre. Do you engage him, or do you just go and do the set?
I would engage briefly.
Yep.
I would not. I would make some sort of comment about, like, you know, just be like, come out, introduce myself, whatever. I'd be like, oh my God, David Beckham. Wow, I'm a big fan. I'd sort of comment on, probably I'd much rather see him in the audience than like a pretty girl or something. Or like there's that whole, as a comedian, you really want to make like a pretty girl laugh. Like if you ever see a pretty girl in the audience and they laugh, you're like, okay, that makes me kind of feel nice. But also there's the aspect of like, you just want to make anyone laugh. You're like, oh, I like that. That feels good. But if I could somehow make David Beckham laugh, that would be, man, I've got chills now just talking about that.
Take the piss out of Steven Gerrard. Something would probably be a good
dude,
one.
100%. There's so much going on. There's so much you can't touch. Like, don't comment on Spice Girls.
Oh, yeah.
Don't comment on Bend It Like Beckham. Don't comment on that missed penalty. There's a lot, the red card. There's a lot going on. But, man, if I could make him laugh somehow, and then I would hang around that gig until he left and just probably follow him home.
Yeah. Well, mate, finding the Frothers, you put it out into the universe now, and I'm just sure that it's going to happen.
Man, far out. If someone could everyone just pray for me for that to happen. I don't know. Yeah.
Pray for Mitch, hashtag.
Yeah, hashtag. Oh man, that's ridiculous. Like, actually, the idea of looking down and seeing Beckham in the show at all. Like, one time I looked out into the show and I saw my ex-girlfriend, and I knew that in a few jokes' time I was going to make a joke about her, and I was like, this is not going to be good. Like, what are you going to do? Man, just the comparison of the feelings I felt versus seeing my ex-girlfriend and the potential to see David Beckham. Man, that's sitting with me real nicely.
Yeah, that's a good goal, mate, right? Yeah, get it in there.
Exactly, mate.
So,
What is something, I guess, about the future of the world? You can talk specifically about comedy that you're frothing on or really excited about.
I think something I mentioned earlier is that my wife is pregnant.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So that's a really good one. Couple of elements to it. Obviously, really excited for us to have a baby and to take that next step and all that. But also just the potential of material from that. So I'm really, really looking forward to my next comedy festival show. So I've started writing it now. I've got until, I think, Sydney, Canberra and Newcastle are early next year. So I'm writing it at the moment. And yeah, some of the content that's coming out purely from the pregnancy and the baby stuff, oh man, that's getting me really excited.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's awesome, mate. So I'm really big on workshopping and giving people stuff that they can take back and also receiving from it. If you could condense your gift into one workshop, what would you call the workshop and what would the concept be?
Oh man, I think it would be, if I could condense it into one gift, I would call it the upside. The upside. Did you give me one? Did you say you have one word?
Yeah.
The
well,
upside.
You can have the title. But
the upside. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'd call it the upside, and the workshop would be just how to find the upside in everything. You know, you look around. You know, the traditional comedian looks around the world and goes, "Oh, Trump, that sucks. Oh, the strawberries, that sucks." Like all that sort of stuff. But you've got to look at the upside in everything. And, you know, even in a horrible time like your nan's passing, my dad's passing, you've got to look at the upside in that. And the thing that I got, especially when I was writing my dad's eulogy, was it's like, this is the hardest but also the easiest thing that I've ever written. Like, it's so makes sense. And it sucks losing dad, obviously, but the upside is that I've now got a greater appreciation for like how strong my mum is, you know, things like that. Or how much, like with dad being sick, how much closer it brought me to my brother. So you got to look at the upside in all of that sort of thing. So I think that's my workshop.
Mate, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And because you'd still obviously have your comedy on
yeah,
and then
100%.
That's a way to access like some really strong change.
That's it, man. You got to use humour in things, especially when you are talking about, I guess, things that traditionally are negative topics. So you try and have some sort of humour involved, and yeah, just using that to teach people how they can, not how they can. Like I'm not there to say, hey, do this, but more being like, this is what you should try. Like, you know, mourn whatever's happened. You lose your job, yeah, think about it. But what's the upside? Got more free time. Like, you know, things like that. So,
dude, we're gonna see this workshop. I can feel it.
Man, I think I'm gonna need a copy of this audio, my friend, because I've got something to copyright.
Yeah, exactly. That's all right. There's actually a sick book called "The Obstacle Is the Way."
Yeah.
I might send that to you.
Man, send it to me, please.
For the podcast, yeah, man, because it's such a. It's only a short book, and you can like punch out little, but the examples they use in it, and the people who've gone through the adversity, and they just use that as the catalyst for.
So true.
Change and becoming a better human is so epic. So, mate, you're a frother. How can people access you?
Through socials. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, just at Mitch Garling, and then on Twitter at Snitch Garling. So yeah, jump on there and chucking up videos and show times or show events, dates, whatever. And yeah, just trying to get some content out there, spread the word of the coast, all that sort of thing. And yeah, chuck us a follow. Mate,
that's awesome. I'll be at the next one, so I'll probably post up somewhere which show I'm going to go to. So
yeah, man, that'll be great.
Bring on some of the frothers from the Frothers Podcast listeners.
Love it. It'll be good. Yeah, man, I just gotta write this show for the next festival next year, and then we'll chuck it out and we'll get everyone there. It'll be sick.
Mate, is it like school? Do you like get to, you know, you've got a show the next day and you haven't written it yet, or do you need to give yourself a good period?
Oh man, there's certainly definitely not the night before, like your traditional, like it's 3 a.m. and I haven't written the English essay, but definitely like I think this year coming into Sydney Comedy Fest, like after Melbourne Comedy Fest, it was fine because I'd done the show and it was fine. But at Sydney, a lot of the jokes I did in the Melbourne show, I had done in the Sydney show the year before. Like the Melbourne show is almost like a best of, if you will. So when it came time to do the Sydney show, there was about a gap of about 10 minutes in the middle where I didn't have anything written. And I was like, what am I going to do? It was about 2 or 3 weeks out. So I just sat down and tried to tie in, like write all these jokes that tied into the other stuff. And then that 2 weeks leading into Sydney Comedy Fest, I was just like hitting open mics every night, just trying it to see if it worked. And it's like, oh, that sort of had legs. Oh, that sucked. Like, or not sucked, but it was like, that's not there yet. This has legs. Let's run with them, see what happens. And tied it all into the show, and everyone seemed to enjoy the show.
Seamless. Perfect.
Beautiful. Yeah, didn't even know.
Stuff,
Didn't even know.
So yeah, as part of the Finding the Frothers podcast, we're all about connecting you with Frothers. Hopefully we will get that meeting in with David Beckham. It's in, I've sent it to the PA, so it's in the works already. But there's someone who's actually from the Central Coast, and he's such a frother. He'll be on the podcast at some stage, but I'd really love to link you up with Tommy Franklin Smiles.
Sure. Yep.
He is a sober raver, so you can find him. You can find him online. He's a dancing legend with an absolute turbo beard. So you get on quite well.
How good's that?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll connect you guys up, and mate. That's sick. Thanks so much for coming and hanging out. Actually, in my mum's house.
Yeah, shout out to your mum who has gone out for the day.
She's in Europe.
She's in Europe. Well, she's gone out for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for having me, man. This has been good fun and a good chat. We got deep, but we had a good time.
Yeah, we got deep, but we provided some froth, so hopefully you guys are energised to run at your day like we are now.
Yeah, man. Let's go see what Bexy's up to.
Yeah. Cheers, dude. Thanks, man.
Quick one, guys. To keep this show afloat, feel free to subscribe and share the love. Maybe even leave a cheeky comment review. That'd be awesome. You can find the show notes on my website at bennywallington.com. And finally, this episode was sponsored by my grandma, Joyce Reichel, who passed away last year from dementia. She was one of the original frothers and would talk to anyone on the bus, train or wherever and generously impart her energy and wisdom. So if you see an elderly person who is looking for someone to froth with, go and hang out with them. They've got the best stories. Also a huge shout out to our producer Lily Haynes for bringing this to life, and Billy Otto who created that beautiful introduction in true Billy Otto style. Also, my buddies in Australia and the UK who have been super generous in swinging me feedback. In a way, all of you guys are sponsoring me with your time. Love to the guests, past and future, and also to you guys for listening. Ciao for now. You!